Okay, guys, I'm back. Fuck the tripod. I'm not using that. I'm pissed. I can't believe I'm actually starting this shit over again. Really annoying. I'm sorry about that. This is a good live so far, and I just clicked remove icon, and it just fucking cut out the audio. Mute this freaking laptop. It cut out the audio as well as the visual. So I'm back. What's up, Toron? So yeah, I just kind of recapped UFC 298. I'm fucking annoyed I have to start over though. Um I don't even fucking feel like starting over, but the show must go on. I was getting a lot of views as well. That's gone. So yeah. But anyway, so like I said, UFC 298 just went down. And what's annoying too is that my YouTube channel is not updating and I can't even delete this video. I want to get this thing the hell out of there. Okay, yeah, here it is. Let me delete this shit. No, it won't let me delete it. So that's gonna be a tarnish on my fucking channel. I can't remove it. Okay. I'm not even gonna show my face for now. Um but yeah, UFC 298 just went down this weekend. Kind of a disappointing card. It was very stacked. Like the main card looked good. Like in terms of name value, it looked exciting, but two or only two fights on the main card ended in finishes, which was Volkanovski, Topuria, and also the opener of the paper of the main card, Roman Kopylov versus Anthony Hernandez. I'm in a shitty mood right now, so my train of thought's kind of not there. I'm sorry, guys, because I'm pissed that my other live got ruined, and nothing. I might even change the title because I don't even know if I'm going to go over all the things I plan on going over. Like, nothing gets me more mad when you're working on something and then you have to start over. So, yeah. The first 2 minutes is just a loathing session. Only fight that was good on the main card was, to me, was Whitaker and Costa. Yeah, I agree. That was a very entertaining fight, and I'm glad that we saw Robert Whitaker back in form. I didn't do a post-fight review on that fight or even the Cejudo fight or the Gary fight. I only covered the main event of the prelims, which was Duran Lemos and the main event because that's the biggest fight of the card. But yeah, it's good to see Robert Whitaker back in form. It's good to see Robert Whitaker back in gear. Kind of showing that the last fight with Duplessis was an off night. And I've always said that, man, something just looked off with Robert Whitaker against Dricus. He just looked slower, offbeat in that fight. He just didn't look the same. Credit to Dricus, he did what he did, but I think Robert's better than what he showed in that fight. And we saw in this fight, he outclassed Paulo Costa. Vintage Whitaker performance. No finish as usual, but he showed good boxing. He showed good defense in this fight as well. Just looked as sharp as ever. And I think in a rematch against Duplessis, he does a lot better. But Duplessis is better than Paulo Costa, so I don't want to be too quick to say that he wins a rematch, but a rematch is definitely a harder fight for Dricus than the last one. But I don't think that's the fight to make next. I think they should do. I think they should make. Uh, I think they should make Strickland versus Whitaker, and whoever wins that is next for the title. While Duplessis and Israel Adesanya run their unfinished business. It was rumored that Khamzat was going to fight Izzy in Saudi Arabia, but that got confirmed to be like fake news. So I think the fight that should happen is Paulo Costa versus Khamzat Chimaev. Paulo's ranked number 7. Chimaev's ranked number 11. I think that fight's very doable. And if Khamzat could beat a guy like Paulo, which I do see him winning that fight still, then I think they'll put him in the top 5 because the UFC is really trying to push Khamzat. So I do see him getting put in the top 5 of the division because they're going to try to push him towards a title shot. But if Paulo wins, if he finally derails the hype of Khamzat and gives him his first loss, that kind of puts Paulo in a good position in his career. And he redeems himself. Yo, what's up, Mason? But who would win those fights between Strickland and who would win those fights between Sean Strickland and Robert Whitaker and between Whitaker, Sean Strickland, and Paulo Costa versus Khamzat Chimaev. Let me turn my cam back on. We're back. As far as like who would win these fights, I'm going with Whitaker over Sean Strickland. And I think that I can't position this properly. One sec. Yeah, I think Whitaker would beat Sean Strickland, and I think that Khamzat Chimaev would defeat Paulo Costa. A lot of people are saying, "Oh, Paulo's so good against Whitaker." I think people are giving him way too much credit for looking better than what he really showed in that fight. It was no different from the Adesanya fight, just him standing at range, doing nothing, getting outpointed and getting leg kicked. Minus getting finished. I mean, he wasn't completely outclassed like he was against Izzy, and he did slightly better than he did against Izzy, but it was kind of the same deal in that fight. And the thing is about Khamzat is he still has the threat of his wrestling in that fight against Paulo Costa. Paulo's got to worry about the takedowns. He didn't have to worry about that against Whitaker. And I understand Paulo has good takedown defense. He defended Luke Rockhold's takedowns. He outgrappled him. That is impressive. He stuffed Romero's takedowns. Yoel Romero, his offensive wrestling was never the greatest for MMA, you know? Like, Yoel doesn't really take you down with a purpose to control you and dominate you on the ground. Although his ground and pound is dangerous, his style just isn't like that. He primarily focuses on his striking. He will shoot for takedowns here and there, but he barely wrestles. Whereas Khamzat's dedicated to his wrestling, and he's more smothering on top, more controlling on top than Yoel Romero is. So I think he could hold Paulo Costa down if he does get him there. I mean, he was able to control Kamaru Usman on the ground. And I mean, a lot of people give, Chimaev slack for having a tough fight with Usman, but I think Usman skill-wise is better than Paulo Costa. So it's no surprise that he gave Khamzat all he could handle, but he still got the job done. And I think he's going to improve from that fight with Kamaru Usman. Hold on a second. I'm not doing this tripod. Yeah, the tripod ain't going to work because it's loose. I need to get a new camera. I need to get a new iPhone tripod. But yeah, this live is more messy than the first one, and whatever. But yeah, I think he would win. And also another thing too is that Paulo's striking is mainly effective when he can back you up against the cage and unload combos. But Chimaev is not going to let Paulo walk him down. He's going to walk him down. And Paulo, when you force him in the center of the octagon, again, his striking isn't the most effective. He's open to being hit, and I think Chimaev will land on him. I think he could strike with Paulo and do just fine, and eventually be able to work his takedowns. And in a 3-rounder, I could see Chimaev winning a comfortable 29-28 decision. If it's 5 rounds, I mean, Paulo has shown some improved cardio. Paulo could definitely take a 5-rounder. But if Chimaev can really work on his pacing and cardio, he could dominate the fight all the way through. Then as for Whitaker versus Sean Strickland, I just think Robert's better than Sean. I think Sean gets overrated for that performance against Izzy. He peaked in that fight. That was the best performance of his life. I don't see him ever looking that good again. And I just think that was the worst Israel Adesanya we've ever seen in years. I think Izzy had an off night. I think Izzy could have done way better. And I think Robert Whitaker, I just think, okay, he can strike with Sean Strickland. I think overall he's a better striker than Sean. Sean may have the better boxing, but Whitaker's got the striking. He's more fluid. He's faster, more well-rounded. He's got the threat of the takedowns as well. I don't think he'll allow Sean Strickland to just walk him down the way Israel Adesanya did. I think he'll be more aggressive than Israel Adesanya. And I just think the speed would give Sean Strickland a lot of trouble. And if we want to use MMA math, well, he beat Izzy, who beat Whitaker twice. Well, Whitaker does better against common opponents. Like the common opponents that him and Izzy have, Whitaker has beaten them more brutally. Like Israel Adesanya, he beat Jared Cannonier and Marvin Vettori, but he didn't beat them up. Like he outpointed them in lackluster fights. Robert Whitaker smashed those guys. He destroyed them. Like he annihilated them. So if you want to go based off that, I think Whitaker would defeat Sean Strickland. I think he'd win by decision. Again, I just think he gets overrated from that one fight with Israel Adesanya. That's his claim to fame. Getting knocked out by Alex Pereira and then beating Israel Adesanya. But all in all, man, I don't think Sean is all that, really. I'm sorry. I think Whitaker wins, and with a win over Sean, title shot. I just think Whitaker needs to kind of build himself back up the way he did when Izzy was champ and beat him the first time, where he had to go through 3 opponents to get back. In this case, I think it will only take 2. Paulo Costa and a former champ, #1 contender in Sean Strickland. I'm so tired of people bitching about how bad UFC 300 looks. The card is pretty solid to me. Yeah, and you know I have the review or the preview early look in the title of this live. I might as well talk about it now. Let me just sign into my Mac. It just signed me out. I want to look at that card. One sec. Signing into a computer can be so annoying, man. I'm sorry, guys. You're kind of seeing a bit of a more on-edge, pissed-off DJC. That's because my previous live got fucked up. So, all right. So, UFC 300. So, looking at this card, I mean, it looks good. You know, the prelims are stacked. The main card is stacked. The main event's good. I just think people are disappointed because because Dana White really hyped up the main event. He's like, we're going to make a documentary out of it. This is going to be like Conor McGregor level. It's going to be something you've never seen before. And I think for people, Pereira versus Hill is like another fight announcement, you know? But I mean, Alex Pereira, he's became a superstar now. Like I was in Toronto when Pereira did that meet and greet, even though I didn't get to meet Alex, unfortunately, because the whole bottle signing was so screwed up and disorganized, and the line was so long, and I went to the weigh-ins first. So whatever, I don't want to get into that. But when I was there in Union Station, they were cheering his name, bro. They love Pereira, and he's got like 1 million followers on Instagram too. So I think Pereira Hill is the perfect headliner for this card. I've been saying and hoping that it'd be the headliner. Apparently, this was supposed to headline UFC 301. I think now UFC 301 will be headlined by Pantoja versus the winner of Moreno versus Royval. Oh, it's going to be a terrible main event for that card. Hopefully they get Paulo Costa on that card and maybe do Paulo versus Chimaev. Although that fight might be put on UFC Saudi Arabia because that's probably going to be a fight night. And Islam won't headline it if it's a fight night. So I don't know. Maybe Paulo Costa versus Nasruddin Imavov. Just get Costa on the card as a big co-main event. Just to make it a big card, and then maybe do Lemos versus Suarez as like a feature fight. You know, it's going to be a decent pay-per-view if you do that. Reschedule Metios Nicolau versus Benal Cop. And it'll be an okay pay-per-view. Maybe put Myra Bueno Silva, Irene Aldana on there, something like that. But I mean, let's give a quick rundown of UFC 300. So, main event, Alex Pereira versus Jamal Hill. That's a great fight. That's a banger. Someone's going to get knocked out in that fight, like without a doubt. I don't know who it's going to be yet, but I'm scared to make a prediction because I'm tripping. I don't remember if I talked about this in the first take of this live or in this take, but I've got the last 4 pay-per-views. I've gotten the main events wrong. I haven't got a pay-per-view main event title fight correct and a title fight correct since UFC 294. So I'm scared to make a prediction because if I don't get UFC 299 right, I'm probably not even going to bother predicting this one. I might quit predictions for now. So yeah, I'm going to think about that one because I want Hill to win. I was originally saying that he would win, so I'll probably stick to it because the last few ones I got wrong. were ones where I changed my mind. I thought Volk would lose to Taporia. Then last minute, I picked Volk. I thought Pereira this whole time would beat Yuri. Fight week, I picked Yuri because I saw it past the victory. Um, you know, all this time I had Leon beating Colby last minute. I'm like, oh, Colby's in his head. Colby's got the wrestling, he'll win. Colby shits the bed. So yeah, I don't know. But either way, all I know it's gonna be a great fight. The co-main, Zhang Wei versus Yan Xiaonan. A lot of people are saying that this is gonna be a boring fight because it's women's MMA. What the fuck are you talking about? It's not gonna be a boring fight. Well, it could be. I mean, Whaley could make it a boring 5-round lay and pray fest, but she wrestled a lot against Lemos, and that wasn't boring. That was an entertaining one-sided beatdown. I think this fight will be similar. I think on the feet, it's going to be a crazy action-packed stand-up war when they're on the feet because both women are good strikers with crazy output. Zhang will probably get tagged a lot more than people anticipate, but Zhang will crack her back with more power. And then Zhang will be able to mix it up, use her wrestling, and beat her up on the ground, and probably get a finish somewhere in the mid to late rounds in this fight, or win a comfortable decision. But I feel like Zhang's going to finish the fight, though. But I think Yan Xiaonan's best chances are on the feet. Because I think she might be slightly more technical than Zhang. I think her speed, her footwork could give her trouble. I think she might even have height on Whaley and reach too, which that does give her problems as well. And then Max Holloway, Justin Gaethje. I mean, that's going to be a crazy fight. And Justin Gaethje and Max Holloway, two of the biggest names and pioneers of the sport, are on this card. Great fight. It might be a heartbreaker because I think this could be the end of Max Holloway here. But either way, they're on 300. Charles Oliveira, Armin Tsarukyan. I mean, come on. That's going to be a crazy fight. Oliveira is allergic to boring fights. It's either kill or be killed with Charles. Either he goes out there, gets knocked out, subbed, or he goes out there, does the same to his opponents. Armin Tsarukyan has potential to go out there and destroy Charles. Look what he did to Beneil Dariush. I mean, they're both coming off knockout wins over Beneil. Yuri Rakic, people are complaining about that fight, but I mean, Yuri is going to make Rakic fight. You know what I mean? The reason why Rakic had boring fights in his last few fights is because he had dance partners who were equally as boring. Thiago Santos is a boring counterpuncher who's overly patient and passive. Rakic will play that game as well. And then his fight before that with Smith. Smith is just submissive and a pushover for these up-and-coming guys. And whenever you hurt him, he rolls over in the fetal position, and Rakic was content to lay and pray. The Yan fight was kind of entertaining, but Yuri Prohaska will not allow Rakic to be passive. He's going to force him to fight. He's going to put the pressure on him. He's going to put the output on him. And he's going to risk getting himself knocked out, or he might knock out Rakic. The only fight on this 6-fight main card that might be boring is Sterling versus Cater. If Cater doesn't win, if Sterling wins, it'll probably be a boring grappling fest. Nickel will run through Brundage and finish him. Figueiredo, Garbrandt on the prelims. Someone's getting knocked out. Holm versus Harrison, probably a boring fight. I mean, Holly is allergic to exciting fights. Like, the only fights on this card that are, like, worth complaining about is Holm versus Harrison. Yusuf and Diego Lopez is a good fight, but both of them aren't really big names. It kind of degrades the rest of the card. I feel like this fight should be on a different card, but it is what it is. And maybe Nickel Brundage. And then Andrade, Marina, that's an exciting fight, bro. Like, people are saying because it's women's MMA, it's going to be terrible. Like, no, it's not. Andrade is an exciting fighter. She's a marauder. She comes forward every single time, looking to take your head off. And Marina Rodriguez, she can be in boring fights, but Jessica will not allow her to be in a boring fight in this one because she's going to go out there, take risks, put herself in danger. And Marina might counter her. She might knock her out. She might piece Jessica up. Or Jessica might land one of those bombs on Marina's chin and she might knock her out. I think this fight's going to be a banger. Who's going to win? If Jessica doesn't work her grappling in this fight, then she'll get outstruck. And if she can't land like a finishing blow on the feet, then she loses a decision, or maybe she gets knocked out because I think that chin is definitely cracked. If anything, if that Yan Xiaonan fight showed us anything, I think her chin is done. And then Jim Miller, Bobby Green. That's a good fight if it happens. But I think UFC 300 is a pretty good card. But I mean, it could have been better, but this is what we're getting, right? I think UFC 299 has the edge. I think it's a better pay-per-view, but UFC 300 I'd say is better than UFC 200. I think UFC 200's original lineup is better than 300, but what is what it is. Nunes versus Tate was like the main event for 200 because John Jones popped for steroids, so that ruined the card. And Nunes Tate was not an ideal headliner. But for this one, we got Pereira Hill, so I don't get the complaints. Is it on par with UFC 100 that had Lesnar Mir as the main event, St. Pierre Fitch as the co-main, Henderson as the feature fight with Bisping? I think Alan Belcher was like the opener of the main card. And Fitch versus Paulo Thiago was on that pay-per-view as well. Boring fight. But I'd say, 100 might have been the best of the 100 cards. But honestly, all name value and appeal aside, 300 has to play out first for me to judge if this is the best of the 100 cards in the UFC between 100, 200, and then this one. Because 200 was actually a boring card, believe it or not, despite having a lot of big names on there. But I'm glad we have a stacked card. The prelims are stacked. I think these fights are going to deliver. Like, I just can't see any of these fights being boring on the main card. Hill, Pereira, like I said, banger. Wei Li, Xiaonan, I think that'll be exciting. Holloway, Gaethje, exciting. Oliveira, Saryukin, exciting. Yuri Prohaska, Rakic, exciting because of Yuri. And Calvin Kattar, Sterling, probably boring. But I think 5 out of the 6 fights on this card are going to be exciting and they're going to be brutal. What was I going to say? Oh, if Jamal Hill wins, imagine Hill beats Alex and Yuri wins. I know Ankalaev deserves a title shot, but man, I think this would be a perfect time to book Hill versus Prohaska because that was one of the biggest fights in the light heavyweight division that a lot of fans were clamoring to see. That fight got away, but if both can get it done, you can book that fight right now. But Ankalaev deserves it, so maybe Yuri will have to fight Jan Blachowicz when Jan recovers from his injury. Let me read some of these comments now. Hate to say it, but I believe Jay Hill is going to knock out Pereira. He's much faster than Alex, and Alex leaves his chin in the air. Hill hits pretty hard. He will KO Alex. Watch. I'm not going to be shocked, man. I think he's got great odds to do so. He could definitely knock him out. I could definitely see a KO. I mean, if Israel Adesanya can knock you out, then, I mean, why can't Jamal Hill, who hits way harder than Israel Adesanya? I mean, Poatan has his path to victory here. I mean, he's got the calf kicks in this fight that are always going to be dangerous, especially against a boxing-heavy striker like Jamal Hill. All in all, I think he's the better striker. And then, of course, that power is dangerous. I think how Pereira can win this fight is he softens up the legs of Jamal Hill to the point where when the damage settles in, it takes away the effectiveness of Hill's boxing, and then he can't sit down in his punches, can't get away from the punches of Pereira, and then Pereira is able to build on that damage and get a TKO late in the fight. But if Hill can figure out the leg kicks, I think he'll win actually, because I do like his boxing better than Pereira's. But what was I gonna say again? Having a bit of a break here. But yeah, I forgot what I was gonna say. I hate when that happens. They'll probably come back to me. Predict Lemos versus Suarez. I think Tatiana Suarez would have won, and I think she will win if that fight gets rescheduled. I mean, based off what we saw in that Dern fight, I mean, based off what we saw, she couldn't stop the takedowns. Took a long time to get back to her feet. Dern was able to control her. And if that's Tatiana on top of you, Tatiana Suarez will do more on the ground than just hold you. She does better at advancing positions. She's active on top with her ground and pound. And I think that honestly, her submission threat when she gets you down is bigger than Dern's, believe it or not. Because a lot of people are able to slip out of Dern's submissions. When Tatiana gets your neck, it's over. So I think she probably would have guillotined. It probably would have been another second round guillotine for Tatiana Suarez against Amanda Lemos. All right. I think Charles Oliveira is going to KO Arman Tsarukyan in the first round. I hope so, man. I'm rooting for Oliveira, but Arman's a scary fighter. Scary matchup for Charles Oliveira. He's got one-shot knockout power. We saw that in his last fight. He's explosive. He's got the wrestling threat on Charles. His ground game is very good. And he could take Oliveira down, and I think he could negate the bottom game of Charles Oliveira, impose his top pressure, and yeah, Oliveira might have a hard time. One sec, let me pick up my charger. Oliveira might have a hard time working his jiu-jitsu from bottom against Arman Tsarukyan. But if they're striking, I do think Charles Oliveira could win the fight. I do. Because let's put it this way. I think Oliveira's striking offensively is better than Arman Tsarukyan. None of them have the greatest defense, but with Arman not having that good of defense, Charles Oliveira can put hands on him. He can connect consistently on Arman Tsarukyan. And Arman did get cracked by Joaquin Silva, and Oliveira hits harder than Joaquin Silva. He's better than Joaquin Silva. So we'll see. I could see Oliveira winning this fight by knockout or submission, but it's just not a given or guaranteed win. I think Beneil was an easier matchup for Charles in this one. But we'll see. Max Holloway is beefing up. He's shooting on some size this time, going up to lightweight. So don't be surprised if he's able to sting Justin a little bit with some of his punches. And he could. He could. And I hope he does knock Justin Gaethje out. I think Gaethje's going to win that fight. And I don't think Gaethje's going to be that affected by Max Holloway's power. And yes, Max is beefing up, but he's never been the most powerful featherweight. And let's be real. If you're not powerful, you're not powerful. I mean, I shouldn't say that. If you do pack on muscle, you will definitely hit harder statistically. Because I do know some people who've worked out and they punch way harder, so that's not true. You're right. Him beefing up will actually make him more powerful, but I'm just not sure, man. Gaethje's got a good chin. Gaethje's very defensively aware on the feet. And I just think Holloway, with Gaethje's style, is going to have a hard time snowballing on Justin. And I think if he's going to beat Justin, it cannot be the way he fought Korean Zombie or Arnold Allen, the way he was like trying to stick and move, skate around the outside. He needs to be able to do what he did to Ortega and Jose Aldo, but I don't think he can. And if he can't, I just think Gaethje's going to move around the outside, chop at the legs, let Holloway come to him. He'll play the waiting game, work the leg kicks. He might get tagged over the top of the head, but I think Gaethje is going to bite down on the mouthpiece, throw whenever Max throws. He'll punch with Max. I think he'll have a similar game plan to what Justin Gaethje did. And ultimately, I do see him beating up Max Holloway, unfortunately. And my prediction for this fight is I think once the damage settles in from the leg kicks, I think Gaethje's going to start landing with his punches more consistently. I think he'll add up, and I see Justin Gaethje getting a standing TKO. I don't think he'll knock Max out cold, but I think like in the third, fourth round, I think that he'll rock Max Holloway really badly. He'll be out on his feet against the cage, covering up, trying to fight back. The ref's going to step in. Max is going to protest, but that's going to be it. But I hope I'm wrong, though. But I just always imagined if Max Holloway is to get finished for the first time, that's how it's going to be. But if Holloway can get it done, I wouldn't be shocked. And who knows? Maybe he'll put Gaethje out cold. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Gaethje will go too hard early. Max's best hope is Gaethje overexerts himself in the early rounds and then is gassed in the late rounds, and then Max can make him pay and then can just go berserk on him and finish him. Holloway has to play the distance game. He has to hit Gaethje in and out, get in and out of the way. That's still going to be hard to do against Justin Gaethje. I don't think he can beat him like that. Justin said a couple of days ago, UFC 300 Q&A, the goal is to touch Holly early and knock him out. Yeah, well, who knows? That might happen, but I see it being late, or maybe it'll be a decision. All right. Man, Henry Cejudo. I was talking about UFC 298 earlier, and I talked about Whitaker, his win. But man, another fight I did not cover after the card wrapped up with Cejudo versus Merab. Great performance by Merab Dvalishvili, man. I predicted him to win. I was disappointed, though, man. I love Cejudo. I wanted him to win so badly, but I just knew, man, Henry Cejudo, not in his prime anymore. And Merab is a terrible matchup, especially for this version of Cejudo. At this stage in both guys' careers, I just knew that there was no way Merab was going to lose. I knew his size advantage would be a factor. I knew that even though he's not a better wrestler and he did get out wrestled in the first round, I knew his wrestling could still go up against Henry's and that he would eventually be able to get him down, defend the majority of Cejudo's takedowns, and just out cardio him. And I predicted he'd win 2-1. That's exactly what happened. I got that prediction correct. And I guess this is it for Cejudo. I mean, Henry hasn't came out and said anything. He didn't really get a chance to retire on the mic. Maybe he's retired in the shadows. Maybe he'll make an Instagram post. But I kind of want Henry to come back just for one more try to get a win, not go out like that. But hey, if this is how Henry's going to go out, then more power to him. I think he should just focus on being a coach. I think Cejudo's a great coach, a great trainer, but I think right now his time in the fight game is kind of done. It's sad that he didn't show up to the Chito Vera fight, because if he showed up to UFC 292, I think he beats Vera and he's fighting O'Malley for the belt in like 2 weeks. It's crazy how much injuries changed the sport, though. But now instead, it's going to be Merab fighting for the belt against the winner of It's going to be Merab fighting for the belt against the winner of Vera versus O'Malley. Okay, was it it might have been in a different live where I think in a different live someone said Umar will be the one to beat Merab. We'll see. I mean, Umar has to prove himself. If Umar versus Sanhagen happened and he beat him, I might be convinced, but yeah, we don't know how good Umar Nurmagomedov is at this time. But I'm answering that question from the other live. I don't know why I'm playing with a Q-tip. Let me read this comment. If you can stand your ground with Holloway and not let him bully you, you can just beat him how Dustin and Alex did him. I don't see Holloway bullying Justin in their fights. He does the guys at 45. Yeah, and he's not doing that to Gaethje. Hence why he's going to lose to Justin Gaethje. So all right, and then Ian Gary versus Jeff Neal. Another fight on that card. I gotta cover the 3 fights that I didn't talk about separately on YouTube. We'll cover them in this live, but Ian Gary versus Jeff Neal. Hey, I predicted an Ian Gary decision. I mean, the fight was closer than I expected. I knew Jeff would be competitive, but I don't think it was a split decision, in my opinion. I thought Gary clearly won the first and the third round. I think Jeff won the second round. But Ian Gary, he did what he had to do to win. It may have not been the most entertaining matchup, but that's what he had to do. He couldn't play that bang it out game with Jeff Neal. Jeff Neal's powerful, so Ian had to be extremely cautious. But I'm glad he won the fight, though, because it's better for the division if he's to win this fight against Jeff. It positions him up for bigger fights. Jeff Neal's just too inconsistent, and he's clearly not champ material. If he would have won, it's like he's not going anywhere in the welterweight division. Ian Gary has more potential, and now this opens up the door for Ian Gary versus Colby Covington, which I do think is going to be the next fight. So not the best pay-per-view so far, but whatever. I was 4-1 on the main card. I predicted Anthony Hernandez. I predicted Sahud or Merab, Gary, and I predicted Whitaker. The only one I didn't get right was Volkanovski, but I'm not surprised. But man, that's sad for Volkanovski that he got sparked. And I predicted on YouTube on one of my older lives from October that we're gonna see the downfall of Volk. I predicted 2024 was gonna be a bad year. And so far I'm right. I mean, he got chinned by Topuria, and yeah, man. I think Volkanovski, part of this downfall is kind of his own fault, though. I mean, no one told, well, honestly, no one told him to take the Islam fight. The UFC offered him that fight because they knew that they knew that Gamrot versus Makachev was not going to be a big enough fight to headline UFC 294. Despite him being the backup, they knew that Makachev Volkanovski 2 was a better alternative to Oliveira versus Makachev 2, but yeah, he shouldn't have took that fight because that was his undoing. Short notice, wasn't prepared. His timing was off in that fight. His timing just wasn't there in that fight against. His timing just wasn't there in that fight against Makachev, and as a result, he wasn't able to brace for the head kick like the first fight. He gets knocked out, and then because he's too prideful, he doesn't take time off. He gets right back in there right away. 4 months later, his chin is not recovered. His chin is not fresh. I mean, your chin doesn't recover, but like I don't know. If you take time off, it'll increase your odds, sort of your chin not being too soft. Maybe I'm contradicting myself. Your chin can recover a little bit, but yeah, didn't allow himself to recover, came back too soon, and of course his chin was not ready to take another big punch. He gets knocked out, and now I think that's it. He'll never be the same. And who knows what could have happened if he never took the Makachev fight, if he was patient, let Gamrot fight Makachev and lose, and just waited for the Topuria fight early this year, his odds of beating Topuria would have been way better. But now he lost. He wants the rematch. I don't want to see it, man. He'll get knocked out again. It's not good for his career. He needs time off, honestly. But yeah, I think he's done. 35 years old. He's gonna be 36. I think Volk's prime is over, man. Ian Gary Neal fight truly disappointed me. Yeah, I kind of expected more from that matchup, to be honest. Like, I was hoping that we might see Gary do what he did to Neil Magny or Gary get knocked out trying, but sometimes when you got two guys who are really dangerous, it's not going to be the most entertaining fight. I like that the guy who fought in the early prelims of UFC 298 named Danny Barlow, that guy is going to be something special if he stands. His stand-up, he looks really good. Huh. I didn't watch the prelims, actually. I only saw like the main event of the prelims when I went to the bar. I caught end of Rogerio de Lima versus Tafa, and I caught the entire fight of Lemos versus Dern. Let me look up this guy, Danny Barlow. Huh. Wow. I think I've seen him before, actually. Okay. I had something else I was going to say, but then I forgot. I forgot what I was going to say. I forgot. But yeah, sad downfall for Volk, but I was kind of thinking of something earlier. I was going to make a video out of this, but I think it's better I talk about it in this live. Here's how to save Volkanovski's career. Operation Save Volkanovski's career. His next fight shouldn't be for the title. I think he should take time off till the fall, and I think his next fight should be against the winner of Kattar versus Sterling, especially if Aljo wins. Aljo's got no knockout power. He's a grappler. He's pillow-fisted. I think that's an easy matchup for Volk. I think he wins. Or fight Movsar Evloev, the decision machine. I mean, Movsar's striking is improving. He has stunned some people on the feet like Ige and Arnold Allen. But I say make that fight. I think he could beat Evloev, especially over like 5 rounds. And Volk's got the takedown defense to deal with him. He needs the most winnable matchups possible. Maybe Arnold Allen, but yeah, if he comes back right away and fights Topuria, it's just not going to end well, man. And it's going to end his career for good. Like, this will be the nail in the coffin if the first fight already wasn't. But hoping Yair wins, or God willing, Yair wins this fight against Ortega. Book him versus Topuria in Spain. Mexico versus Spain. It's a big fight. Grudge match. There's a rivalry there. Bad blood. They don't like each other. Yair doesn't like him. So I like that matchup. Agreed. Volk should fight towards the end of the year. I'll say around October or November. Yep. And now let's talk about Topuria's title reign. How long will his reign last? I see some people saying either he'll lose his first defense if it's against Holloway, if that's next for him, or he might be champion like for a long time. Which honestly he could be. He could be, but I don't think he'll be as dominant as Alexander Volkanovski was. I think realistically, Topuria will be champion for probably a year and a half to 2 years with a minimum of like 2-3 defenses, but I think someone will come along and beat him. I think now that Volk has lost, it's opened the door for other contenders now to have a pathway to the belt, where when Volk was champ, no one had a hope in hell of being the champion because Volk was too good. Topuria is very good and stylistically is better than Volk. But Volk, like, he could be stylistically better than the whole division, and Topuria is his kryptonite. But with Topuria, just because he beat Volk doesn't necessarily make him the best. I'm not saying he isn't the best, but I don't know. If his next defense is against Alexander, he beats him again, so that's one defense. And then let's say he goes against the winner of Yair Ortega, which I do think will be Yair Rodriguez. I think he would beat Yair Rodriguez just because he's simply more well-rounded than him, and he's got multiple different ways he could win this fight. He's got the threat of the stand-up, the threat of his grappling. With Yair worrying about the takedowns, it will open up the hands of Topuria. With him worrying about the hands, it's going to open up the takedowns, and Yair Rodriguez take on the not that good. He couldn't defend a double leg from Max Holloway, who's not even a wrestler. Brian Ortega took him down. Volk dominated him with his grappling. So did Prime Frankie Edgar. So I think Topuria could take him down, crush him with his grappling, and probably get a finish on the ground, in all honesty. But if it's Brian Ortega, I think he easily beats Brian. I think he pieces him up on the feet. I don't think Brian would do anything with Topuria, and even on the ground. Ilia Topuria's jiu-jitsu is also very good, so I don't see him getting subbed. I think it'll be another like brutal Brian Ortega 5-round beatdown, like what we saw when he fought Volkanovski and Max Holloway. But speaking of Max Holloway, I mean, Max can't be next now because he's fighting Gaethje. But if, let's say, Holloway beats Justin and comes out unscathed and wants to go back to featherweight, and fights Ilia next, that's a tough fight. But I'm not going to be too quick to say that Holloway beats Topuria. Stylistically, he does have a better chance beating Topuria than beating Volk. That's just how it is. But I've always said, man, I feel like if the day were to, I've always said, I feel like if the day comes where Volk loses the belt, the one to beat Volk might also be better than Max Holloway too. Because I said, what it's going to take to beat Volk, someone's going to have to step up to the next level. Like, beyond just having a good chance at beating him by fluke, there has to be someone who can be better than him. And if that guy comes along, that guy can beat Max too. And I think Topuria is capable of beating Max. And if anything, I could see Ilia Topuria beating Holloway by a decision. Close fight, but I just think Max won't be able to snowball Topuria with volume. And if he fights him the way he fought Arnold Allen, which is trying to stick and move, I don't know if that'll work on someone with the level of Topuria with his boxing and his pressure. If Max Holloway tries to get aggressive, Ilia Topuria will bite down on the mouthpiece. He'll punch with Max Holloway and land with bigger, harder shots. So Max would have to be careful. I think Topuria just might land the bigger, better, more damaging shots, chop at the legs, and win a decision. But it'll be a close fight, though. It would be a very, very close fight. But I could see Topuria edging 48-47. But if Holloway were to win, it wouldn't shock me either. It's Max Holloway. Max could potentially knock out Ilia Topuria because Holloway does have kind of sleeper power. His head kicks are pretty good too. Topuria can be quite open to them, but I feel like since that Jai Herbert fight, I feel like he'll have tightened that up. I think he's learned from that Jai Herbert fight, and I think if he were to fight Yair, he'd be trained for those head kicks like Volk did. So I don't think they would land for Yair. But Max could surprise him maybe with a head kick. But yeah, I don't know. I predict that Topuria will have a defense over Volk. I think Volk will be stupid and take the immediate rematch, lose. That's one defense. And his next will probably be against Evloev or Yair. He beats both those guys. So two defenses. And if Max can come back in the picture, depending on which version of Max shows up and depending on what happens with Gaethje, it's kind of a 50-50 fight. Max could be the one to beat Topuria. He has a path back to the belt now. So we'll see ultimately. But I do see Topuria by decision, but I don't have an official pick. But ultimately, I predict a year and a half, 2 year reign from Topuria with 2-3 defenses. But I don't see Topuria being in like all-time terms in the featherweight division. I just don't. I really don't. For some reason, I just don't see it. There could be some featherweight on the roster right now who nobody knows about, who eventually will climb his way through the rankings and then blow up next year and be the guy that beat Ilia. So you never know. And speaking of all-time terms, let's talk about the debate between Jose Aldo and Alexander Volkanovski. I got to get this off my chest. Who's greater, Jose Aldo or Alexander Volkanovski? My argument is Jose Aldo. Now, I know a lot of people will say, oh, but Volk fought better competition. He beat guys that, Aldo lost to. Aldo lost to every featherweight champion. And he's lost to every champion he's fought. Look, I get it. But Jose Aldo, not only does he have more title defenses than Volk, his quality of competition is not that far behind from Volkanovski. Volkanovski, let's see who he beat. Let's look at his resume. So pre-champion, he beat Chad Mendes. He beat Jose Aldo. And then when he became the champ, he beat Max. Then he beat him again. Not really. And then he beat Ortega, beats Korean Zombie, beats Max again, beats Yair in his title reign, so a good 5 defenses as champion. He's got a good resume, don't get me wrong. But let's talk about the quality of competition Jose Aldo has fought. So Jose Aldo, so in the UFC, his worst wins, I would say, would be like that guy that he gave a bubble on his head to. My mind's blanking on his name. Now I gotta look through his shirt, dog. It's bothering me now that I don't remember his. Oh, Mark Hominick. Mark Hominick, not really a great win. Kenny Florian, not really a great win, but he beat Prime Frankie Edgar twice. Oh, that like button just popped up. That's interesting. He beat him twice. He beat Frankie Edgar twice in his prime. And if not for Jose Aldo, if Aldo didn't exist or fought in a different era, I think Frankie Edgar might be the featherweight champ with multiple title defenses. I think no one else is beating Frankie but Aldo. Chad Mendes, too, was another guy that no one else could deal with but Aldo, and he beat him twice in his prime. And a better version than what Volk fought. Volk fought a Chad at like the end of his career who retired after. Jose fought Chad, who was at the top of his game, who wasn't going anywhere anytime soon. He also beat a better version of Korean Zombie as well. Let's not forget that. He beat a prime Korean Zombie. The Zombie that Volk fought was absolute shit and washed up. And he was coming off one win over Ige where he didn't look that good. And before that, got sunned by Brian Ortega. So it was obvious what would happen. And then also another win, a sleeper win for Jose Aldo was Prime Ricardo Lamas, who was a wrecking machine. So let's look at this. Prime Frankie twice, Chad Mendes twice, Ricardo Lamas in his prime, prime Korean Zombie, 4 good quality wins. Now, what does Volk have on him in terms of quality wins? Okay, Max thrice, who Aldo couldn't beat. Fair enough. Styles make fights. Brian Ortega, Yair, are those guys better wins than who Aldo fought and beat? I wouldn't put Yair and Ortega above Frankie Edgar, Lamas, Mendez. No freaking way. Or even a prime Zombie, you know what I mean? And then who else did he beat? Okay, they also have beaten common opponents too, like Zombie, like Mendez. But Mendez beat those guys, or Aldo beat those guys in their primes. Volkanovski didn't. I'm not saying Volk can't beat those guys prime for prime. He could, but I'm just saying that my point still stands. All those wins over those guys look way more impressive. They look way more impressive than Volkanovski's wins over those guys. So they both have good quality wins. I think all those quality wins are slightly better, and he's defended the belt more. If Volkanovski, had he beat Ilia Topuria, I honestly could make a case for him being better than Aldo, but he lost. So, case closed. Lucas Tracy, I'm calling you out, man. I watched your video and your points pissed me off because you were so dismissive of Aldo and you were missing a lot. You completely ignored, you were making fun of his win over Uriah Faber. Uriah Faber was a solid win at the time, or Mike Brown. You're ignoring that he beat Frankie Edgar. You're ignoring that he beat Chad Mendez in his prime. You're ignoring that he beat Zombie in his prime. You're ignoring that he beat Prime Ricardo Lamas. Those guys were scary for their time. You know what I mean? Those guys were running the division outside of Jose Aldo. So how are you going to say Aldo only beat Cans or had a patter record? Like, get out of here, man. Aldo's got the title defenses and good competition. I don't want to hear, oh, but he got knocked out by Connor and Max beat him, and he also lost to Volk, and then at Bantamweight he lost to Peter Yan. Who gives a fuck, man? Aldo has a great legacy that I think a lot of people forget. And they try to dismiss him because of that 13-second knockout loss to Conor McGregor that they should have ran back and never did. And if they did, I think Aldo composed could have had a better chance at winning. Max beat Volk fight 2, in my opinion. I agree. I thought he won the second fight. I thought he was pulling ahead first 3 rounds. If only he could have got a knockdown in round 3, then it's a lock. He wins that decision, and Volk would have needed to finish. Volk showed heart and toughness in that second fight, but I thought Max should have been a 2-time champ. That pisses me off, man, because that fight was everything. That was Max's legacy, and the judges ruined Holloway's legacy. I think part of Max's story and destiny was to be a 2-time champion, to bounce back from losing his title against Volk to getting it back from Volk. Then that was going to set up a big trilogy between them in one of Max's title defenses. And then, yeah, Volk would have worked his way back, and we saw what we saw. Volk wins the trilogy regardless to get the belt back, but they would be 2-1, not 3-0. Max wouldn't be 0-3 to the same guy. I think Max being 0-3 to Volk puts a huge stain in his legacy. I think Max could have had a bigger claim to being the featherweight GOAT if he could have been a 2-time featherweight champion. So that's really annoying, man. I know it was close. I know there's that stupid rule that to be the champion, you got to beat the champion. But Max won that fight. But it would have been nice if Holloway could have knocked his ass out those times he dropped him. Not to take away from Volk. He's a great fighter. You know, he had a close fight with Max where he lost, was gifted a decision, but he went back to the drawing board, made improvements. He stepped it up to the next level. I think losing to Max Holloway really pushed Volkanovski and forced him to step up his game and made him as great as he was. So Max did him a solid in that one. But how it should have been is Max becomes a 2-time champ, gets one more defense against Brian Ortega, repeat of the same fight that happened the first time, and then loses the belt again to Volkanovski. And then Volkanovski probably gets one more defense, maybe, and then moves up. But Volk would not have 5 defenses in that case. He'd probably have like 2-3 defenses, because he'd have no defenses if he lost to Max the second time. If he got the belt back from Max, who would he fight next? I mean, maybe Yair, Zombie, or something like that, and he'd have like Yeah, he'd have like 1-2 defense minimum and then lose to Topuria maybe. Combat Badger, send a link so we can debate. Okay, say no more. Let me see what I can do here. I'm trying to click on invite guests. I just don't want to make any mistakes that's gonna screw up this live. Because I fucked up last time, so I don't want to screw up this time. Okay, now post a comment. All right, I'm gonna post a link right here. We got UFC Mexico coming up. I might get interrupted because this guy's probably gonna click on the link, and it's probably gonna be a heated argument, and I won't get to be able to say what I'm gonna say. But decent card. But I'm really excited for the co-main and the main event. And it's interesting that the co-main and main event are rematches of anticlimactic fights that ended in freak injuries. Ortega and Royval both injured their shoulders, so I guess there's some like unfinished business there it needs to be tended to. I did rewatch Ortega Yair recently, and Brian didn't do as bad as I thought. He was landing more shots than I thought he was. He was able to eventually get the fight to the ground right where he wanted. He was able to get him right where he wanted, but then his shoulder popped out. Some people say it was like a technical submission. Maybe it was. I got to look over that again. Maybe it was a technical submission, but it was a freak injury. Fight could have been different, but honestly, though, I think Yair's going to win just because he's been more active. And Ortega's style is just too predictable for Yair. I think Yair has a good enough of a ground game to survive if he gets taken down. He can survive the jiu-jitsu of Brian. He's a better striker than Brian Ortega. Brian doesn't really have the wrestling like a Volkanovski to get the fight to the ground consistently and have the same level of control on the ground. So it'll be primarily striking where I think Yair will dominate and probably win by decision or maybe a late finish. As for Royval, I'll get your request to join in. Don't get off the live yet. Just need to go over this one. Then Royval against Moreno. I think Brandon's going to win. I think it's going to be like the first fight. It's going to be a continuation of the first fight. Royval, I just always said he's not really on that elite level. What's up, Mastermind? He's just not on that elite level as a fighter, you know? He's entertaining, he's wild, he's creative, but doesn't have the greatest takedown defense. That was a problem against Pantoja. That's why I picked Pantoja. And I don't see what he does to Brandon Moreno. What does he have on him? Is he gonna knock Brandon out? Is he the first guy to crack his chin? No. I think Moreno's a better boxer than him. I think Moreno is a better grappler than him. If Moreno wants to win in the stand-up, he can. And I think Brandon Moreno can also take the fight to the ground and control him on the mat. I think he wins on the feet and wins on the ground. Entertaining fight, but I think Moreno wins by decision. All right. Oh, Samurai Sod. Sod is in the building. Let's go. Hold on. Let me post this link again. Sod, what's up? Yeah, Moreno's gonna win. Where you at, Combat Badger? Don't duck. Turn up, man. Link's right in the chat. I'm backstage. Okay. Hold on, then. If you're backstage, guess. Oh, okay. Yo, what's good, Sod? What's good, bro?
What's good?
Good to see you on the live. I had to start this over because the last one I accidentally removed my icon and screwed up the audio, but here I am.
All right, what do you want to start with?
Hold on, let me try to add this other guy. You just click on the link again, and I'll try to get you in, because I don't see you in the stage. So try again. Yeah, I was just talking about UFC Mexico.
Yeah.
What do you think about those fights between Yair Ortega and Moreno Royval? And then what do you think's next for both with a potential win?
Yeah, I'm very interested in both these fights. Both are rematches, of the first fight was like injuries. And I was
Yep.
actually the first fight for Brandon. I'm gonna start with Brandon Royval and Brandon Moreno. All right. The first fight was actually a very good fight, right? Like the first round, it was very high pace of the grappling, and it was very sad that Royval injured his arm. But it looked like Moreno was gonna win anyways, because back
Yeah.
then Royval wasn't really that good. He's improved so much throughout the years, and injury or not, regardless, Moreno would have won that fight. He was about to TKO him, and then he broke his arm anyways. So
Yeah, he was like beating him up with ground and pound.
yeah, I still think Brandon Moreno's gonna win, but it's not gonna be as easy as this time, obviously. So
Yeah, because like even against Pantoja in the rematch, Royval did slightly better, so he might
yeah,
do better in this one too.
like Royval got subbed by Pantoja in the third or second round, right? In the first fight,
I think it was the second round. I
the
can't
second
remember.
round, and in the second fight, 5 rounds decision. So that's a lot of improvement.
Yep.
Yeah, so I think Royval could shock people and maybe knock Moreno out or submit him. I don't know about submitting. I think knocking Moreno out is probably more probable, but I still have Brandon Moreno winning because he's just really good. And for the and flyweights is interesting right now because there's not much contenders because Minal Cop is injured and he keeps missing weight, and Kai France keeps pulling out, and
Yep.
Amir Albazi pulled out as well. So yeah, flyweight desperately needs a. We can't keep on having rematches at flyweight. It's kind of getting annoying.
Yeah, I'm annoyed too because what was I gonna say again? Yeah, Kai Car France versus what's his name? Cop could have happened, and the winner of that could have been in a position to fight for the title. And then if Albazi didn't pull out, I think I'm not saying he would have beat Moreno, but what if he beat Moreno? You know what I mean? And Kai versus Cap already like unfolded. You could have different options. If Albazi fumbles, you can rely on Cara France or Manal Cop, and either of them could fight Pantoja at UFC 301. But now it just seems like the winner of this fight will fight Pantoja. And it's just kind of like he beat Royval twice already, and he beat Brandon Moreno 3 times already. So it's just kind of like I'm actually interested in seeing a Moreno Pantoja fourth fight, but I want to let that fight
Yeah,
build a bit
yeah,
more. You know what I mean? Not I don't like Moreno's had enough title shots. I want to see him. I want to just see him really earn it this time. I'm sick of
yeah.
him
I
getting
disagree on that
privileged.
one. I disagree because Moreno has built himself already, and
Mm,
for that fight you could have an immediate rematch, no problem, because that fight was so good, the third one,
yeah,
and yeah, I'm always down to see Moreno throw it down. I'm always down to see Figgy and Moreno throw it down. Those guys are just so competitive, and I love it. And now Royval's kind of included himself in the discussion, but I'm really like disappointed in Manel Cop, man, because he should have been the next guy, and now we have to, because like the winner of this weekend, we're getting a rematch regardless. There's no more fresh title matches at flyweight, and it's getting pretty obnoxious. So
yeah. So you're Combat Badger?
yeah,
Oh shit, that's funny. I didn't
yeah,
know you had 2 accounts. Who do you think's gonna win between Yair Rodriguez and Ortega?
this is a pretty clear cut pick for me. It's Yair Rodriguez for sure. There's no
Yeah.
way there's no way someone can justify Ortega. He doesn't fight. He gets injured. He's pretty one dimensional. He's not going to beat Yair Rodriguez on the feet at all. So I got Yair Rodriguez by flashy KO. I think he's
Yep.
gonna put the crowd on notice. I
Yeah.
think he's gonna get a title shot. He's gonna put on a flashy performance, and the UFC is gonna be like, "Let's market this title fight with Ilia Topuria." He's talking
In
trash to
Spain,
Topuria.
yes.
Yeah, I don't know if the UFC is gonna go to Spain. I don't ever believe the UFC would say to go to places, but that would be awesome. Ilia Topuria versus Yair Rodriguez. After Yair Rodriguez gets a cool flashy KO, and Ortega's first time getting knocked out, I feel like it's gonna happen. He's just too washed. He doesn't fight. He's lazy. I feel like. And the first fight, Yair Rodriguez was pretty, beating him until that injury. So Yair Rodriguez definitely improved a lot too. Ortega, what improvements has he made? barely, right? So
Yeah, and it's sad because Brian, he had potential, you know. I mean, he's a
yeah,
well-rounded fighter. His striking is actually pretty decent. He has power. His striking looked great against TKZ, and then of course his jiu-jitsu's great. But as you said, a lot of injuries. He fights like way, way too infrequently. Like the guy hardly ever fights, so that's gonna
yeah,
affect you when you're inactive. And I just, yeah, and he had that chance to sub Volkanovski, and he fumbled.
that
That
was
was his
very
last
close.
chance at being champion. So yeah, I kind of think he's done. The
Yeah,
mastermind said Royval
Ortega
needed.
reminds me of Costa, except
Ye-
Costa's a bit better.
Yeah, he's a better Ortega for sure.
Yeah,
Royval indeed
I think
improved, but
I think what
Moreno
Ortega
needs
needs
to.
to do is change gyms. Because what gym does he train? He doesn't really change at a really good gym, does he? I think
I
if he
don't
changes
know.
gyms, if he changes gyms and gets a little more disciplined, he could be something. Maybe become more better. So, and Tracy Cortez was a distraction as well, but he got rid of her.
Oh yeah, she was definitely a distraction.
Yeah. So, yeah, maybe Ortega will surprise us because MMA, that's what happens at the end of the day. But I don't
I
think
hope he
this is.
surprises us.
You like Ortega?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, I
I
used to
mean,
like Ortega, but I
it's
don't know
better for the division if Yair wins, but
for
I
sure.
wouldn't
Yeah.
mind seeing Ortega actually like get redemption. But yeah,
Yeah, featherweight and flyweight are kind of in similar situations, but not really because featherweight. Yair is a fresh contender, but he's already fought for the title. It's gonna be, I think, Yair Rodriguez is gonna put on a flashy enough performance that people will forget that Volk beat him, right? So they can market that title fight. Because usually
yep.
they don't give fighters. There's no way he's gonna get a title shot after one win, though, right? But the UFC's done it in the past, I think.
Yeah, that Ilia fight sells itself, so they might just give him another title shot. He might be kind of like Gain or Colby, where it's like a former interim champ who gets a title shot off like one win. So that might be Yair's situation, I think.
Yeah, it depends on his performance. If it's not a good performance, yeah, he's definitely getting passed up. If he puts on a KO, the UFC can definitely make the fight happen.
Is Ilia going to Mexico, by the way? Because I saw you sent to the group chat that story.
Oh
It's
no,
like,
no, no, no. That's him going back to Spain.
ah,
He wouldn't. He
okay.
wouldn't go to Mexico for Yair Rodriguez. No way. He
Yeah,
wouldn't
that
care.
doesn't make sense.
But yeah, I think if Yair wins, he'll call out Ilia, and the crowd will get hyped up and shit. So I think it's gonna be a better fight to go this time. Maybe Ortega will surprise us with a few things. Maybe a fourth round finish or something. Maybe third round because Ortega's very durable,
Oh, yeah.
But I think a head kick or like something like that can knock him out.
Yeah, and Ortega's he takes way too much damage, man. So that
Yeah.
chin might be spent.
And back to the main event, Moreno. Yeah, I just think on the striking, it's interesting. It's gonna be a fun match. I actually can't wait for this one
Me
because
too.
I think this is gonna be very competitive, much more competitive than the first fight. And
Same.
UFC, someone said UFC probably give Volk a rematch. Nah,
Any yeah, then Ilya will retain the belt.
no
Hell
way
yeah,
that's
throw
happening.
some Nick Newton.
No way,
Yeah,
bro.
I don't want to see Vault get a rematch though. I said that earlier in this live. Like,
Bro, there's no
this
way
is
the
not gonna
UFC
be
is
good
giving.
for him, man.
No way UFC is giving him an immediate rematch. He got knocked out
That's
way too
that
bad,
that's easy money. Another defense guaranteed for Elliot Taporia.
bro. Unless Ilia Topuria is a jackass and he wastes his time and doesn't fight, until like fall and waits for Volk. Hopefully he doesn't do that.
Me neither, man.
Hopefully he's an active champion because I have respect for him now. But whenever a champion's inactive, I immediately lose respect for them.
Yeah, and what sucks, even though I'm glad Holloway Gaethje's on UFC 300, I kind of wish that that fight wasn't happening because if it wasn't, that's the
Yeah.
clear next fight, Max Holloway, Ilia Topuria. But
Remember
that
they were
that
gonna
kind of
make
ruins things now for Max.
Ilia Topuria Max Holloway for the interim belt.
Yeah,
Yeah, that was gonna happen.
imagine if Topuria would have still beat Max anyway. That would have made the Volk fight bigger.
Yeah, I'm kind of happy it didn't happen though, so we can have Max fight for the undisputed belt.
Yeah, because who knows? Like, what if Max would have beat Topuria and ruined things? You know,
Yeah,
we don't
Max
want to see Volk Max 3, so or 4. So yeah,
Max could beat Topuria by the way. He
he
could.
could. It's
Yeah,
very
because
possible.
it'd be crazy if you see Max the champion again.
I've wanted that for years, and it should have happened 4 years ago. But again,
Yeah.
Fight Island judges. idiots. So,
You still think
and
that
it
was
could
a
have
robbery?
happened if Ortega got the guillotine because Max would have beat Ortega again. But Ilia is
Nick,
going to be a tough fight for Max. Not gonna lie.
yeah, Nick Newton. I sound like a Paki. No shit, I am a Paki. But anyways, what was I saying? Eh, Yeah, when Volk versus Max 2 happened, I was so hyped for Max Holloway. I was seeing him knocking Volk down and shit. And then when the result came in, I was confident Max was gonna get it. And then they raised Volk's hand and shit. It was pretty messed.
Yeah, that was really annoying.
But after that, it kind of like grew off on me. I didn't really care after.
Yeah, in that moment, I was pissed. I remember I had my phone out. I was like ready to record the decision, and then like I heard and still, and then I'm like, I was like robbery, and I just deleted the video from my phone. I was so mad. Like Max made some great adjustments in that second fight with Volkanovski.
Yo, Nick, join the ring. The motivated Ortega.
Yeah, Nick, hop on. There's a link in the chat.
I doubt we'll see motivated Ortega.
Yeah,
Tracy
me neither.
Tortez's ass cheeks. Man, that shit would distract me forever.
He's talking about like the rebirth, like using the eagle analogy. That's just all hype, man. We're not gonna see that.
What is he talking about with that, bro? I don't even know what he's talking about.
Just saying that eagles live for 70 years, and on the 40th year, eagles, their beaks lose their sharpness, and then what they do is they break their beak, and their beak
Yeah,
grows back, and they can live for another 30 years. That's what he was
yeah,
talking about.
yeah. He's been smoking too much.
Definitely.
But let's talk about UFC 300, yo.
Oh yeah, I talked about,
And,
about the earlier. Let's talk about it again. Where I gave my thoughts, but what are your thoughts on like the whole layout of the card and the main event and everything?
all right, so we already talked about this a lot. I'm not happy with the card. The main event, I'm actually okay with, but the
Mm,
undercard, I'm not. So first
yeah,
of all, the first issue is the co-main event is Zhang Weili versus Yan Xiaonan.
should
I
be
didn't mind.
Max.
I didn't mind it if there wasn't to be a women's MMA title fight on there. I'm not a fucking sexist, but like, make it a good one. Make it the best possible women's MMA title fight you can ever make. Right? It's for
Yep,
UFC 300. Don't make a
exactly.
damn. Don't make a damn one-sided women's MMA title. That's a terrible waste on the card. You know,
It is.
everybody knows Yan Zhongnan's gonna get her ass whooped. Like, why are you putting that on the co-main? It just
Exactly. It's just gonna look like Lemos versus Zhang.
And the other problem is I think there's a little too many women's MMA title fights. Like Holm versus Harrison. Come on, man.
Yeah,
Save that for something else. Andrade versus Marina Rodriguez. Save that for UFC 301 in Brazil. You know what I'm saying?
exactly. That's a card that needs some like sort of big names. So
Put some
I
like good
agree.
matchups on 300. We don't even care about ranked people. Just give us unranked bangers. It's not hard. It's easy.
Exactly.
Like UFC 299. Look at those fights. Look at the main card. It's violence, first fight to the end.
Oh yeah, UFC 299 is like way better. And I know you said it doesn't matter, but like I've always said, I was concerned that they kept like overstacking UFC 299 before UFC 300 because I'm like, man, what if they run out of options and then UFC 300 ends up not being that good? So that did kind of, believe it or not, is kind of a problem. So
I'm tripping about 300 because there isn't even like 15 fights on that card, right? Not right now.
yeah, and there's like
So what
only going
if
to be one more fight. Like, why?
what if fights start falling off? Like, come on, bro. Like, you should be prepared for the worst.
Exactly. It should have 15 fights. How many fights does 299 have?
I don't know, like 13 or something.
Wow. But not 300. That's messed up.
Yeah. And Yuri Prohashka versus Rakic. Out of all the light heavyweights you could have messed him up with, you messed him up with Rakic.
Yeah, I know that fight's not going to be that good. Well, it will be good because of Yuri. I talked about that earlier.
Yeah,
Yuri's
but
going to.
What if Yuri doesn't win? And it could happen.
That's
It'll,
true.
it'll mess up the main card.
That's true. But I feel like if Yuri wins, it'll be because he makes it exciting but puts himself in danger and then gets caught, like the Alex
Like
Pereira
that's
fight. But
That's the
he's
gamble
not
I'm
going to
trying to
be on
take.
the receiving end of a stale, boring decision like Thiago Santos and Smith.
I hope
He's too
he,
good for that.
yeah, I hope he gets the KO. So that's a gamble we're taking on that card. So
And what
I
I
think he'll
said
knock out
earlier,
Rakic.
and what I said earlier in this live is I said, what would be ideal, even though Magomed's in the picture and he deserves it, if Yuri and Hill both win, honestly, the UFC could go right ahead and make Prohaska versus Hill because that was a fight that fans were already talking about. It was supposed to happen, and Jamal got injured. So that would be the
Um,
perfect opportunity, but I get it. Uncle Live's deserving, so Yuri might have to take one more fight, but
oh, you think Uncle Ives gonna get the shot? Well, you thought
that's
wrong,
what
bro.
they're saying.
You
But
thought wrong. You thought wrong.
I
Yuri
hope
Prohaska
not,
wins. He's
man.
getting. Yuri Prohaska wins. He's getting the shot, bro. Trust
He
me.
should, especially if Hill wins.
Uncle Ives coming off like what, one win, so Yuri
Yeah.
Prohaska's in the same position, and he was a former champion. They're definitely gonna give it to Yuri Prohaska. Trust me.
Okay, yeah, I hope so. I want to see Prohaska versus Hill. Or
International Fight
maybe even
Week.
a rematch with Pereira because I picked him the first time and he was winning that fight, and then he made a mistake, he got caught, and
I
then
like
Mark
that.
Goddard stopped it early, and there was a lot more in that fight that was about to unfold. So in that sense, Pereira kind of got lucky. So I think they definitely have unfinished business there, but
I think
ultimately
Pereira.
Hill Prohaska is what I want to see.
I think Pereira, if he loses, he's gonna quit.
Do you think he's gonna retire?
Yeah, I think he's egotistical for this sport. He just wants. He's kind of here for a short time, not a good time, right? He's here for a good
Mm,
time, not a long time. Like Michael Chandler, because he's already winning belts. Like Chandler's not
that's
winning belts.
true. He's accomplished so much.
He's in the sport for his ego, So I don't think he's gonna stay after he loses.
And you heard him say, right, that he's willing to train with Israel Adesanya. What do you think about that?
Yeah, that's cool. But
Me
MMA fighters
too.
do that all the time. I don't really care. There's
And
nothing to say.
and Israel Adesanya even talked about that as well. Like Izzy was saying backstage at UFC 287, he'd love to come to Brazil, train with them, learn how to use that sneaky calf kick. Honestly, like at this stage in Izzy's career, I think that'd be the best thing for him is training with Pereira. That could maybe make Izzy better. That could be his
Yeah.
path back to redemption,
How
maybe.
about this? Pereira is retired, and he's just training for Izzy
Yeah.
full time.
Chandler already into WWE already. Oh yeah, that was funny when he was at WrestleMania and he was
I
like
feel bad for
calling
Chandler,
out
bro.
Connor. Me too, because it feels like at this point he's not gonna get the fight with McGregor, and he's just wasting time on the couch waiting. It's like,
He's just begging, and it looks pretty bad. It looks embarrassing.
yeah, and I think Connor's just he's kind of dragging it out on purpose just to make fun of Chandler.
Why don't they just give Chandler a fight? I don't get it.
Yeah, Chandler should probably just fight someone else at this point.
He's literally wasted 2023.
Yeah,
He's
and
not.
that was an iconic year, and he wasn't a part of it. So
He's literally not even young right now. He has to think about this. Like he's not gonna. It's not like he has time to waste.
yeah, I mean, the only upside for this for Chandler is that like, okay, he's had
Or
he's had a year off after taking so much damage in
true,
his
true.
first couple years in the UFC, right? So he's had time to, I guess, rest and recover, but again, the cons of that is his age. So
Yeah,
he might be refreshed, but he's gonna be older. So
ring rust
yeah.
as well.
Wait, what? Oh yeah, ring
Ring,
rust, yeah.
and also because he's recovered from the damage doesn't mean the damage won't be put back on him right away when he gets back in there. So, like
That's
BSD,
true.
he fights BSD, he's getting hurt.
Oh, definitely.
So I want to see some rematches, like I mean Charles versus Chandler. I wouldn't mind that.
Yeah, I would like to see that ran back too because Chandler was winning that fight and then until he wasn't. So I'd be
Yeah,
interested to see how a rematch,
bro,
what
I love
adjustments both
Charles.
would make.
I love Charles, but you notice every time, even when he wins, he ends up on his back, like in the first
Yep.
round, and they're beating him up, and then he gets. It's risky, bro. It's like he really takes those risks.
That's why I'm worried for him against Armin Sarukian because
Yeah, man. Because Armin
Sarukian
Zurich,
can
he keeps people there, bro. He keeps them there.
exactly and Sarukian's ground he can hurt Charles on the feet, but then on the ground he might, unlike other strikers, because Armin's so well rounded, he'll be willing to go to the ground with Oliveira, and on the
That's why.
ground he could do
That's why.
damage. So
That's why he lost to Islam, pretty much.
yeah, because he couldn't beat him standing, and then on the ground he got neutralized. And a similar thing in this fight could unfold. That's why I'm worried for Oliveira. That's why I just wish he was fighting Islam right now instead of risking it against Sarukian.
Yeah, I think this card might not be too happy. Like the fans, it's that's why I kind of don't like this card either because the matchups for the fan favorites are not good.
Yeah, because that's the thing. The thing is, Prohaska, I mean, I think he'll win, but what if he
Yeah,
doesn't, right?
yeah. What if
What
he
if
doesn't? What if
Charles
Charles?
Oliveira loses? What if
Yeah,
Max loses?
yeah. I mean,
And then
Gaethje,
people
people like
love
Gaethje,
Alex, so that'll be
people.
sad if he loses.
Yeah, it's kind of turning out that way.
Like, we could see a lot of heartbreakers. What
Yeah,
if
no,
Zhang somehow loses? I don't think she will, but again,
there's no way.
yeah, I
There's no
know it's
way.
not gonna lose.
I mean, people like Justin Gaethje and Hill, but it's like Charles Oliveira. You know, if he loses, people won't take it.
Exactly.
I hope there's
Max
some.
getting finished is gonna hurt if it happens.
Yeah, but it'd be a shocking moment though, you know, and it's better if it happens for 300.
Yep.
He's never been finished, right? Oh, he's been finished. He's been subbed, but he hasn't been knocked out.
Yeah, he's only been subbed. I predict though, like, and we might see not an all finish main card, but the fights that I can guarantee will end in finishes will be Hill versus Pereira,
Yeah,
Gaethje versus Holloway, Oliveira versus Armin, Yuri Rakic. That could go to a decision, but I could definitely see a finish in that one.
only if
Um,
Rakic wins.
yeah,
What
I
about
have a
Cater versus
feeling that
Sterling?
Aljamain Sterling versus Calvin Cater is going to end in a decision
I don't
in
like
this
that fight.
one,
I
and
don't like
that's
that
not
fight.
going to be entertaining. And then
Yeah,
Zhang
see,
will win by decision. Well, actually, no, I think Zhang will win by a late finish. I
she better
think.
finish the fight. She better.
I hope.
I really hate that title fight. They should have made Jean versus Grasso, bro.
Yeah, that would have been that would have actually added to the hype of this card, like a
Yeah,
champ
but
versus champ fight in WMA. Like,
then I wouldn't mind at all.
I feel like UFC 300 is kind of missing that spice to it. Like,
Yeah,
what would make it special is a double champ, like a champ versus champ crossover.
yeah.
Like Pereira Hill is a great headliner, but I just feel like there could be something more. And it's missing that magic to it.
That's the whole point. Dana White, he never had that craziness like planned and shit. This
And
fight
he
was
lied
actually
to us
made.
too.
This fucking title fight was made by desperation. That's how bad they were doing. They never
Yeah,
really had
because it was
anything
gonna
planned.
be in Brazil.
Yeah, that's why the hype is like so low for this card because it was made by desperation.
Exactly, man.
Let's talk about 299.
Let's talk about what?
299.
Okay, yeah, let's talk about that.
All the main card matchups because they're all super good.
And what are your thoughts on those fights?
Yeah, let's start with the main card opener: Song versus Yadong. I mean, Song versus Yan.
Please,
Uh,
Peter Yan, destroy this guy.
I'll be
He
happy if
needs
he
to
wins,
win.
but I have to go Song. You gotta go Song.
Yeah, because he's improving and Peter Yan is kind of regressing. I don't agree with that bullshit that Peter Yan was always overrated. I think Yan was always that good. I just think what
He
happened to him
definitely
is
was good.
I think he threw the knee and then he got overconfident from that performance and then he got humbled in the rematch by Aljo. And I think getting humbled kind of hurt his confidence a bit. And then, he could have beat O'Malley, didn't get the decision. I think those two fights kind of took something out of him confidence wise. And he kind of got fucked up in the O'Malley fight as well. And then I think going into the Marab fight, I just feel like that wasn't. I know Marab is a beast, and I'm not saying he wouldn't have won either way, but Jan could have done way. Peter Jan, who fought Aljo those two times, and even O'Malley, and through his rise, would do way better against Marab. So I think he's kind of shit now. And I think he's nerfed, and I think if he's not the same, which honestly, that Marab fight could have took more out of him, then I just think right now momentum and timing just favors Yadong to win this fight. If this happened like at UFC 259 2 years ago, Jan would have crushed him. But times have changed. But we'll see. Maybe Jan comes back rejuvenated and hopefully he shuts his haters up. But I don't see it, man.
Yeah, the more I think about it, though, I think Yan could win too because it is a step down in competition.
What sucks is that this fight didn't happen in December in China because it was going to be a fight, and that could have really favored Peter Yan.
I want to see the UFC make another card in Asia. They canceled it.
Yeah, and this next time they better be prepared. Like last time, they made that card without like being prepared, without the champion of China being ready. You know what I mean? Li Jingliang being injured. They had
Yeah,
no plan B. Well, their plan B was Yadong versus Yan, but then they knew Yadong versus Gutierrez wouldn't be a good China headliner. So,
man, that's what I'm thinking. They should have made China like May or something and saved Zhang for that.
oh, but who do you think's gonna win between Burns and JDM?
That's a good one. I think this could be a fraud check. Could be, but I still got JDM.
Yeah, because Gilbert Burns is good, man. He's the
Yeah,
guy.
people
People forget
underrate
how
him
good he is. You know, I think that a
for
problem
sure.
with that Bilal fight is he fought on one shoulder, turned around too soon. I think this fight he's recovered, more time off.
MMA is
Uh,
so unpredictable. I love it, but there's still levels, and sometimes you know. But stylistic matchups at the end of the day, they really reign supreme over anything. MMA math, anything.
yeah, I mean
Stylistic
Burns could win
math,
by out grappling him, but if he can't on the feet, JDM might piece him up.
bro. The jab isn't a kill Burns. Isn't a be Burns kryptonite.
And what about MVP's debut against Holland? Do you think that's gonna flop, or do you think it's gonna be a success?
Flop? What do you mean by flop? Bad
Like,
fight.
will he show up in his UFC debut and lose?
People want MVP to win, right? It's more interesting.
Yep. Yo,
Uh,
Google is lying. Google has MVP's record listed as 12 and 0 when he's like 17 and 3.
uh,
But yeah, who do you got winning, MVP or Holland?
I have Holland winning because MVP is kind of washed. He's not in his prime anymore. So maybe
Yeah, he
he'll.
did waste a lot of time in Bellator when he could have been in the UFC sooner, and he's 36. But
But I don't really look at that too much now. I think it's more about the skill. I think the skill difference. There's definitely skill difference. You have to admit. I think
yeah,
Holland fought better guys. He's more experienced in the UFC. But MVP is a veteran himself too, so I can't really say that.
and he does leave his hands down a lot. And Holland's got them weird, long, powerful punches, and if one of them do connect, he can chin MVP. But MVP, I think he could outstrike him too. So we'll see. I got MVP winning, but I'm just glad he's in the UFC. And what about BSD versus the Diamond?
I think I think Poirier's gonna win. Yeah, Poirier.
Yeah, I hope so, man.
But BSD's probably gonna win though.
It could happen. I mean, if
He
Gaethje,
is.
if he's not the same from the Gaethje loss, I mean,
That's the way we
BSD's
have
got
to look
momentum.
at it. Yeah.
So,
But the thing is, I watched BSD's fights, and he's definitely beatable. He leaves himself open a lot. He gets confident. He can't do that against Poirier because Poirier's got really good boxing and shit. So
yep, I agree. That's gonna be a violent fight, though. I can't wait. What about O'Malley versus Vera?
O'Malley versus Ferrer. I got O'Malley by decision
I hope he wins, man. I don't. That would be annoying if he lost. Like, if he went this far just to lose twice to Vera.
for sure. It's gonna be a tough fight for him. I think this is gonna be a good first title defense for him because
Hmm.
Cheeto Vera's he's hard to finish and he has to take 5 rounds and go hard 5 rounds. He's gonna be pushed to the limits. So
Yeah, he better win because okay, I'm gonna pick him, and I've not got a title fight wrong since or right since UFC 294 or a title fight right this year. So that would not be a good look if I went 0 and 4. So
I think
please, O'Malley, don't fumble.
O'Malley's gonna have to start off pretty slow. Make sure keep his composure for his cardio in
Yep,
the later rounds because he's gonna need his cardio in the later rounds.
yep. Because the later rounds is where Vera has that experience and where he's
Yeah, this is a good
able to
rematch. I
take.
don't know why people like it. There's history behind it. It's gonna be it's stained O'Malley's record. If O'Malley
Yep.
beats Cheeto, people are gonna have to give him respect.
Exactly. Then he can erase that off his record. But for all we know, man, if that fight never happened the first time, O'Malley's record could be like a perfect 17 and 0, 18 and 0. That kind of
Yeah, he's
sucks for him.
impressive. Let's be real. That loss was pretty fluky. There's no doubt that was a fluke. So
Yeah, I've always said that, and people try to give Vera so much credit like that was a legit win. But watching that, I'm like, come on, man.
there's
If
evidence
that
that
didn't
was a
happen,
fluke.
O'Malley would have beat him. People just hate O'Malley.
What are the chances what do you call it? Perennial nerve?
Perennial nerve, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Cheeto Vera is crazy. Something he makes things happen, but it's not gonna happen again. It's almost not gonna happen again.
Yeah, definitely not.
But Cheeto Vera, man, he's tough. Like he doesn't get finished. He's gonna put the pressure on O'Malley, but O'Malley will break. I think he'll do it.
Oh yeah, I hope O'Malley's cardio will be good enough for 5 rounds.
But if it somehow KOs Chito Vera, that'd be crazy.
Oh, that's gonna go viral, bro. I mean, no one's knocked out. No one's ever knocked out Chito Vera. So if
Yeah, I
O'Malley's
don't
the
know why.
first,
Do you think it's because he has a crazy chin, or it hasn't been tested? He definitely has a crazy chin, right?
yeah, I think he has a crazy chin, honestly.
I don't know what it's made out of. Like it's
But he also does have kind of good defense too. I mean, he'll shell up,
yeah,
tuck his chin, so
yeah, that's true. That's
he
probably what
probably
it,
doesn't
he's
get
literally
caught right on the button. But if he could find the chin better than anyone else has, you never know, man. Vera's human. There's a
yeah,
good chance maybe he could get at least rocked in the fight.
yeah. It's kind of weird if Chito Vera becomes champion. I don't know.
Yeah, and then he'll just easily lose his first defense to Marab, whereas O'Malley
Yeah,
might be able to beat Marab.
O'Malley's the UFC's big guy right now, so they don't want him to lose.
Yeah, so he better not fumble that.
And I think he sleeps Marab too.
I kind of hope so, man. I'm not a fan of Marabi. I respect him, but yeah, I don't
Yeah, I don't know
want him
why
as
people like him
champ.
so much. But like, he's a cool dude. I'm not gonna hate on him, but like he's not. I don't know why they like him so much. Like, what did you do in the fights that's impressive? Tell me. His
Because
cardio,
he's a
his
title cuck, and he ruined all those retirement.
bro. People are just gonna forget about that, bro. He does nothing impressive in his fights. He has cardio. He fails takedowns. All right. He wins fights, but he gets all the. Okay, the Yan fight was impressive, but like, he's just not eye catching. Like, there's nothing special about him.
Yeah, I kind of see what you mean, man.
Of course, his cardio is special and his high pace, but like, it's annoying to watch. He fails at
Yeah,
everything, but he just does it. Like all that failure still makes him win because the opponents can't negate any of it.
it's annoying watching him win because I've like picked against him so many times apart from the Rice fight, but when he fought Aldo, I'm like, oh yeah, Aldo should win this fight, defend takedowns, outstrike him, and then
Yeah, I
that
don't know what
doesn't
happened there.
happen. And then I thought, okay, Peter Yan will beat him. Doesn't happen. And then I knew he'd beat Cejudo, but yeah, it's annoying watching these guys who were so good not
Tell
be
me,
able to negate his
tell
game.
me, does he have crazy pet boxing?
No,
Does he have good BJJ? Probably, but
no.
like, is it impressive?
His wrestling is good, but apart from that, like,
It's literally just his cardio, bro. It's like
yep.
it's cardio.
And
If it
I
never
think
had the
he's on
cardio,
EPO too, because I swear to God, he slowed down against Cody Stamen. His cardio used to not be that good.
he literally got caught with the same combination: Henry Cejudo and Marlon Moraes. It's
Yep.
embarrassing. I don't know why
I think
people think
what's
he's
his
just
name
crazy.
O'Malley's gonna study that, read up on that, and he
Yeah,
might find that shot.
but O'Malley's take on defense is shit. But hopefully he can get it done because he does. Murad doesn't finish people, so he has 5 rounds to do that.
Well, I mean, his takedown defense looked good against Sterling in the rematch, so there's
Fair.
some hope. He had a good wrestling camp for Aljo, so he'll
Yeah, he
have
probably
another
learned.
one for Rob.
He learned from the Yan fight. And Yan has good trips too, so then it's different.
Yep. And I think the issue with Peter is he had to worry about. He said he wasn't preparing for Jan to wrestle, but I think he had to also worry about the striking, Jan's power as well. So I think that created openings for Jan to get the takedowns with Aljo. Aljo's well rounded, but his striking, like he doesn't have a threat in terms of being able to hurt you like Jan could. So he wasn't, I don't know, like Aljo wasn't able to use his striking to set up the takedowns because he lacked the power. So in hindsight, that was an easy matchup for O'Malley.
Mhm.
Easier than we all thought, you know.
Yeah. Are you watching the PFL card?
It's this weekend, right?
Yeah, it's really stacked. Are you gonna watch it?
I think so. Yeah, it has Yoel Romero and
Yeah, it's crazy. I'm telling you,
Santos.
it's really cool. You don't watch the Bellator and stuff? You just watch UFC?
I watch Bellator sometimes. I'll like watch like the YouTube streams and stuff like that. But I feel like people are overhyping Yoel versus Thiago Santos. Like
Yeah, yeah, for sure. People don't. People who know it, like, they're not the
if
same.
this fight happened like in 2019, it's a
For
different
sure,
fight. But
it's crazy.
Yoel's fights have been boring and passive, and since the John Jones fight, Thiago has been a boring fighter
I don't
who's
know
been
why, man.
safety first. So I think both guys are gonna stare at each other, kick at each other at range. Yoel might have some blitzes here and there, but
Isn't that crazy? Saying that, who? Imagine saying this years ago. No one would have believed us.
yeah,
They're both super crazy fighters. I mean, it's sad, man. Just fights like this should have happened way back then.
It's really frustrating, like what happened to Santos, because he was a beast before the injury. Like
Yeah, yeah, he was a
to give
monster.
John that kind of fight, like he could have been something.
He literally changed during the Jones fight. After that knee, he was done.
Yep.
One half of his monster was left in that John Jones fight, and the second half was washed.
Yeah. If,
Because
if 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 he never took that wrong step after throwing the kick, like he probably wins that fight. And if not, he would come back way sooner and still go on another run.
I
And
still don't
probably
get
would have been
his.
champion when John left.
I still don't get why he's boring though, because he got surgery. So why does he still do that? Why does he still fight boring?
Yeah, I have no idea, man.
Maybe he can't move like his legs the same way.
Yeah,
That's
he
why.
can't move like he used to, I guess. So he
That's
can't
crazy.
explode forward and he has to kind of wait back on his opponents.
That's. But with the Glover Teixeira one, he was kind of himself there.
Yeah, and he almost beat Glover too. That was so annoying. Like,
He would have gotten a title shot.
yep. And maybe, well, I don't think he would have beat Jan Blachowicz in the
Yeah,
rematch, but
it's crazy. Like people don't know how crazy he was. Just watch the Jan Blachowicz KO. That's Jan Blachowicz prime Jan Blachowicz.
dude, that was impressive, man.
Yeah, to do that to Jan Blachowicz, who even Pereira couldn't do that to him. It's crazy.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm gonna miss Prime Thiago Santos.
that was a brutal stoppage. Like, Thiago was such a dangerous counter puncher with like one shot knockout power.
He literally stiffened Jan too. Like Jan was stiff.
Yeah, that's crazy. And you know what's crazy? Jan's like last three losses I noticed were to Brazilians. Thiago
Yeah,
Santos,
Glover.
uh, Glover, and then Pereira.
I don't know why he can't beat Brazilians.
It's like he's cursed from beating them.
You think Jan Blachowicz is done? I think he should retire.
Yeah, he didn't look that good in the Pereira fight and the Ankalaev fight. And what was I gonna say? And then yeah, just his what was I gonna say? Yeah, and then he had a bad shoulder injury too. So I just feel like him getting injured and he's like 40 years old, like, yeah, he's kind of done. But yeah, I think it's over for him now at this point. He's never gonna be champion again. So
Did you watch Wanderlei Silva's highlights?
oh, I've been watching this guy's highlights since I was a kid.
Yeah, man. I've been watching him since he got announced to the Hall of Fame. All these old
Yeah,
school fighters are just their fighting style was so awesome.
he was a Vanderlei Silva was a unit though in his prime.
Bro, his rivalry with Rampage Jackson was
And
insane.
I was surprised he was in the Hall of Fame because of how his UFC career ended, where he ducked a drug test, meaning he was guilty, and then the UFC literally banned him. Like
Nah,
he wasn't supposed to leave the UFC in 2014. He was gonna fight Chael Sonnen, but from a drug test got fired. I thought because of that the UFC was him, but I guess not.
they don't hold grudges, and these are UFC legends. They're not gonna
Yeah.
put him. But did you remember his rivalry with the Rampage Jackson?
Oh, of course. I
Yeah, both
followed
of them.
that when I was a kid.
It's crazy how both of them got classic KOs. Like Rampage just KO lost in the fence, the ropes, and then Rampage got his own KO. Both of them
Yep,
are both of them are iconic KOs.
they were, and it's funny that rivalry kind of reminds me of Pereira versus Adesanya a little bit because
Yeah, yeah,
you
yeah.
got the Brazilian guy versus the black guy, and the Brazilian guy beat the black guy multiple times until the black guy finally came back and got his revenge KO. It's
Yeah,
like
that
a
KO.
similar story between both guys, Izzy and Rampage.
Yeah, that pay per view was nasty by the Rampage when he fought when he KO'd
What
Ronda Silva.
you said that pay-per-view was good?
He was big, it was a big one.
Oh yeah, Forrest Griffin versus Rashad Evans, and then Antonio Nogueira, Big Nog versus Frank Mir. That was a
Yep.
good. That was a good card.
Let's see if the UFC 300 poster is going to be good.
Yeah, I wonder what that's gonna look like.
I wasn't kidding, but I don't like the fights. Like I would have, if it was John Jones, crazy something like that, I would have definitely got a poster.
And it's crazy if John Jones didn't injure his shoulder,
Yeah,
he
he
would
would.
have been on UFC 300 if he beat Stipe in November.
I wish that never happened.
It's so annoying. The UFC 200 poster featured like every fighter on the main card except for Cain Velasquez. Do you
Why?
think? Well, I don't know. They just featured the title fights basically, and then Brock
Oh,
Lesnar.
okay,
And then DC and Silva. But do you think this card will feature, or this poster will feature all the fights on the main card?
probably. Yeah. Now the best fights like Rocket. Come on.
But it will definitely feature Gage Holloway, Wei Leon, and Pereira Hill.
I don't know why people aren't seeing. Like some people just are sheeps for the UFC. They don't see things like how we do. You have to like have the right proper matchups.
Exactly.
I'm Andy here. All right.
Huh?
I believe. I'm done.
Okay. You said you're okay. All right. Well, that was a good live. Sorry about that, guys. I wish it didn't end the way it did the first time. Really annoying. Um, I think I covered everything. The UFC 298 recap, Ilia's title reign prediction, the UFC Mexico, UFC 300. Okay, we're good. Uh, yeah. Well, have a good night, everyone.